Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown, the unofficial sumo podcast for official sumo fans. This is Jake.
And this is Ryan, and this is our Aki 2025 Banzuke Prediction. This is where I get things back on track. We've been struggling since
Yeah.
last Aki when we won the whole damn thing. Everything's been downhill since then, so we're gonna recapture that Aki magic this time. We're
Been
gonna
like
we're gonna get back on
accelerating.
top. We're gonna make our way back into the top 10. The journey starts now, and I am super unconfident. There's no way that
And I
there's
feel
no way I
terrible
can have
about it.
any confidence with how I've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Just
think I don't know, a weird one for me is we usually record this one pretty close to when the basho ends. Because that's when you generally go through your Banzuke. This time we just had a lot of life happen in August, and like we're recording this on the 25th, the day that we intend to release this,
mhm.
hopefully. But yeah, that's all up to me. But um, we haven't released any episodes other than the news episode that I posted like minutes ago. We haven't released episodes all month long, and I feel completely disconnected from sumo. It's been wild. It feels like a really long off season.
Mhm.
And yeah, when I was going through stuff while working on the news episode, looking at the thumbnails of previous Banzuke episodes just tells a lot of a real story in your facial expressions.
I'm sure it's getting less and less
Mhm.
confident and happy, and
The
yeah,
most
I'm
recent
trying to
one was
mask
your
those feelings right now because right now we're projecting the
yeah,
confidence. We feel good about this.
yeah,
It's gonna happen. We're let's just, you know what? We're gonna set our goals low this time. Let's just get top 100 this time. We weren't in the top 100 last time. Let's just get top 100 this time. Get a winning record on
hmm
Guess the Banzuke. That's all we're looking for. Step in the right direction.
yeah, yeah. Top third. Get your Kachikoshi. It sounds like a reasonable place to put your expectations with how shit you are at this recently.
Shut up.
Had to go there. All right. Let's get right into business then.
Let's do it. And we'll start, of course, with our Yokozuna, where Ono Sato will, for the first time in his career, take the overall top spot on the Banzuke, as he had, I guess, disappointing 11-4 record for Ono Sato. That's hell of a lot better than the 1-14 record that Hoshoryu had. It's been a long time since we've had multiple Yokozuna, but they work the same way that
Yeah.
the Ozeki do, where whoever had the better record, they're just going to shuffle those guys around. So Ono Sato, having the better record in the previous Basho, will take over as the top Yokozuna, and of course, Hoshoryu will slide over to Yokozuna West. Not a whole lot of shuffling going on for the Ozeki, as it's very hard to shuffle one thing. So Koto Zakura will remain our Ozeki East. 8-7's all you need to stay Ozeki, and that's pretty lucky for Koto Zakura because that's all that he can do now, apparently.
You know what they call a really crappy Kachikoshi?
What?
A Kachikoshi.
That that's true.
So
Eight wins
he
is
did the
8 wins,
bare
baby.
minimum. Yep.
Yep.
Bare minimum to stay in Ozeki there. And you know what? Bang up job there.
Yep. And we would have heard about an Ozeki promotion. There's clearly no Ozeki promotion. So
Yeah.
Koto Sakura remains our sole Ozeki. So moving down to Sekiwake. I don't know if this is a gamble. It's not 100%, but the Sekiwake East ranking. So Daisho was absent in the previous Basho, so that leaves a hole at Sekiwake East, and it's not 100% clear who is going to take his place. Both Kirishima and Wakataka Kage had winning records at Sekiwake, and one of them is going to take Daisho's place. Kirishima was ranked higher than Wakataka Kage, but Wakataka Kage had more wins. So the question is, does Wakataka Kage jump over Kirishima, or does Kirishima stay ahead of him, still give Kirishima a promotion after he had a winning record? For my prediction, I am taking Wakataka Kage to jump ahead of Kirishima and grab that Sekiwake East ranking. There is precedent for this. In January, Kirishima had a losing record from Sekiwake East. Daisho was Sekiwake West with an 8-7 record, and Wakamoto Haru was Komusubi East with a 10-5 record. Then in March, Wakamoto Haru would jump from Komusubi East to Sekiwake East ahead of Daisho, and Daisho would remain at his previous rank of Sekiwake West. But of course, with precedent, there is counter precedent. In July of last year, Wakamoto Haru had a losing record from Sekiwake East. Abi was Sekiwake West with a 10-5 record, and Onosato was Komusubi West with a 12-3 record. Also picking up a Yusho in that basho was Onosato from Komusubi. But in the following basho, Abi was able to stay ahead of Onosato, grab that Sekiwake East rank, and Onosato took the Sekiwake West ranking there. So, two good, I feel like solid examples of precedent of what could happen in this situation, but my gut is telling me to have Wakataka Kage jump ahead of Kirishima, especially because Wakataka Kage is on a legitimate Ozeki run. Maybe they want to position him at Sekiwake East, even though Onosato never made it to Sekiwake East in his career
What a
before
bum.
making it up to Ozeki. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything that Wakataka Kage is on an Ozeki run, but my guess is Wakataka Kage jumps Kirishima here.
I appreciate you citing your sources that literally the exact same thing has resulted in opposite decisions.
Yeah, and I feel like this one's a bit closer to the Kirishima or no, the Daisho staying Sekiwake
Yeah.
West and Wakamoto Haru jumping over him. The records are the same, 8-7 for the Sekiwake West and 10-5 for the Rikshi that was behind them. Whereas in the Abi example, Abi had 10 wins. So maybe with Abi having double digits, like, we don't want we want to
Right.
promote him, maybe rewarding the couple extra wins that Kirishima wasn't able to get in this situation. So we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be shocked either way, but my guess is Wakataka Kage.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it just goes to the nature of the randomness here. That, yeah, just flip a coin. Flip a
Exactly.
coin that maybe you personally weight at 51-49, but you're
Yeah.
still basically flipping one.
Yeah. I'd probably put it more like 75-25,
Sure.
honestly. I feel pretty decent about Wakataka Kage.
Gonna
Um,
make a note here for the end of the episode when you ask me what I think you're gonna get wrong. And
fair.
done. Okay.
All right. So at Sekiwake, we do have four other Rikshi with rank and record combinations that would allow them to get promoted to Sekiwake. But do any of them have a compelling enough case for me to force open any extra Sekiwake ranks? We had 3 Sekiwake last time. Will we have 3 or more Sekiwake this time? I I just don't see it happening. Takayasu would be the closest. He was Komusubi. He had 11 wins, but traditionally, at least in the past 20, 25 years, 11 wins is needed from Komusubi to open up a new Sekiwake rank. It's been since January of 2000 when a third Sekiwake rank was opened up for a Komusubi that had 10 wins. Since then, 6 Komusubi have gotten 10 wins and not been promoted to Sekiwake in the next basho. And I think Takayasu is going to become number 7 here. After that, you have 11-4 Aonishiki for Maegashira 1. I don't think you're going to open up a new Sekiwake slot for that. We've seen Daisho go 13-2 for Maegashira 1 and win the Yusho and only be promoted up to Komusubi. And you're certainly not opening up a new Komusubi slot for a 9-6 Maegashira 2 or an 11-4 Maegashira 4. We've seen 11-4 Maegashira 4 not even make it to Komusubi the next basho. Hint, hint, also this next basho, I believe. So I just don't think there is a compelling enough case to open up a third or fourth Sekiwake rank. I've seen a lot of discussion on Sumo forums about some people considering and doing that. And I looked at that after I completed my Banzuke, and I was absolutely floored. Some people were seriously considering that. It just feels like that would go against all the recent precedent that we've been seeing. And as I say that sentence out loud, that sounds like the perfect thing for the Banzuke committee to do, honestly.
Yeah, I think it was we were kind of spoiled. What year was that? Was it like 2023 maybe,
I
where we
think
just
so.
constantly had extra Sekiwake and
3 or 4,
slots?
yeah.
Yeah, I think there was one where we had there was oh yeah, it was like the Christmas tree Banzuke they called it because there was four Komusubi, three Sekiwake,
Mm,
two Ozeki, and one Yokozuna.
yes.
But like yeah, multiple slots open, and just because people kept squeaking in those winning records, those slots stayed open for like a whole year where we had extra stuff.
Hmm.
But really, when it comes down to it, it is pretty rare overall to have those extra slots. And Wakataka Kage absolutely earned that slot there.
Yeah, you
But
got
yeah,
12 wins from Komusubi to force that open. That makes
yeah,
sense.
from Komosubi though.
Yeah,
So like Aonishiki leapfrogging all the way to Sekiwake would totally make sense if there weren't already two guys filling that.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, there's two guys ahead of him in line for sure.
So for my prediction, I'm going to have a 7-man Sanyaku. I'm not creating any extra Sekiwake or Komusubi ranks. I don't. For me, I don't believe there is a strong enough case to justify that. So if we're not creating any new Sekiwake slots, then we need to figure out who deserves to fill the Komusubi East rank that is abandoned by the woeful Oshoma. So by the math, Awanishiki would have the best case for it. Like if our Nishiki were Maegashira 11 and Takayasu was one rank ahead of him, Maegashira 10, just like Takayasu was one rank ahead of him in this basho, I'd have our Nishiki jump ahead of Takayasu 10 times out of 10. But since Takayasu was in the Sanyaku ranks and Aonishiki was just on the outside looking in, I'm going to give Takayasu some Sanyaku bias to move from Komusubi West to Komusubi East after his 10-win performance. Then after that, Komusubi West is easily Aonishiki's, as I have him getting the unfortunate one-rank promotion after an 11-win basho from Maegashira 1. But that's what happens when you're at the top. You can't expect
Yep.
a whole lot more than that sometimes.
Bit of a log jam at the top there. Always is a little bit of wonky stuff there.
Yeah. And one basho too late for Aonishiki, who by all previous precedent and all rights, should have been Komusubi instead of Takayasu last Basho.
That's right.
And it looks like he's probably still going to be behind Takayasu, despite having more wins than Takayasu from one rank behind him.
that that same jerk is holding me back a second time in a row.
I know.
Unbelievable.
Takayasu just holding down the young talent of sumo. I've been
Oh
saying it for
God, just
years.
retire already, old man.
Right? All right. Going to our Maegashira at Maegashira 1, this, if the Sanyaku plays out how I thinks it does, Maegashira 1 should be pretty cut and dry. We've got two more Rikshi whose rank and record combo would place them at Sekiwake. There are no other Rikshi that deserve to be ranked until Maegashira 3, so there's nobody else muddying up this conversation. So there's no reason that Maegashira 1 would be anybody other than Abi and Tamawashi. So Abi had 9 wins from Maegashira 2, and Tamawashi had 11 wins from Maegashira 4. I've got Tamawashi pretty easily being able to jump ahead of Abi here and take that Maegashira 1 East ranking, rising 3 ranks from Maegashira 4. And if that is the case, I mentioned this on our news episode, Tamawashi, if he does make it to Maegashira 1 East, would be 8 wins away from becoming the first 40 and 41-year-old member of the Sanyaku ranks in the modern era.
Wow.
There has been no member of the Sanyaku ranks that was 39 or 40 years old. Only 2
Really?
Rikshi in the modern era managed to make the Sanyaku at the age of 38. Those were the American Takamiyama and also longtime Ozeki Kaio.
Yeah. Takamiyama wrestled forever.
Yeah, so did
Um,
Kaio. So has Tamawashi.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, like you just listed three of the most longevity blessed wrestlers ever, like
Yeah.
because that's the record we're talking about. But yeah, wow, they were both before the GSB era, but Takamiyama in particular is somebody we've looked into quite a bit, just being an American.
Yeah. And so I've got Tamawashi, Maegashira 1 East. That would put Abi rising 1 rank after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 2 to Maegashira 1 West. Moving on to Maegashira 2, we now got to look at a group of 4 Rikshi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 3, Oho, Haku Oho, Gonoyama, and Atami Fuji. using just straight math rules and no joy bias, Atami Fuji would be the next ranked since he had the most wins and was on the east side. But the recent trend has been super focused on keeping higher ranked Rikishi ahead of much lower ranked Rikishi, which puts Atami Fuji at a disadvantage here. So I'm going to focus on two Rikishi that were in the Joy for this Basho to fill the Maegashira 2 ranks. Those were Oho and Haku Oho. So both were on the east side, and Oho was ranked higher. So I could say, hey, they've been pretty favorable to the higher ranked Rikishi, so I could leave Oho at his previous rank of Maegashira 2 East, where he went 7 and 8. I do feel like this Banzuke committee wants to push down Rikishi with 7 and 8 records, at least one half rank, with the exception for Rikishi at the bottom of the Banzuke. But I assume that
where it's a complete mess.
Yeah, the old men of the committee are tired at that point after a long day of Banzuke making, and they forget all the rules and standards that they have been using by the time they get to the bottom of the Banzuke.
Retire, old man. Come on.
Seriously.
That's the catchphrase this episode.
Yeah. Please don't let them push the retirement age up to 70. We don't need 70-year-olds putting together the Banzuke.
We don't need them to start resorting to nonsense at Maegashira 10.
Yeah. So I'm going to have Haku Oho land at Maegashira 2 East, rising 2 ranks after an 8 and 7 record from Maegashira 4. And then due to east side bias, I'm going to have Oho go ahead of Gonoyama. Oho previously on the east side, Gonoyama was on the west side, and due to joy bias, I'm having Oho stay ahead of Atami Fuji. So I've got Oho dropping 1 half rank from Maegashira 2 East to Maegashira 7 West. So now, looking at Maegashira 3, we are left with Atami Fuji and Gonoyama from that group of 4. And here, there is a gap of 4 ranks between these two Rikishi, with Gonoyama being the higher ranked Rikishi. Gonoyama was Maegashira 6, Atami Fuji was Maegashira 10. We saw on the last Banzuke that a difference of 3 or 4 ranks was enough for the Banzuke committee to throw all proper rules of logic and math out the window. So that is something that we need to consider here. But with Atami Fuji not only having the wins advantage, but also east side advantage, I am going to have Atami Fuji rise 7 ranks to Maegashira 3 East after an 11 and 4 record. Then at Maegashira 3 West is where you would expect me to put Gonoyama, and I think most predictions I have seen do have Gonoyama landing here, but I'm actually going to put Wakamoto Haru here. So Wakamoto Haru went 6 and 9 from Maegashira 1 West and deserves to be 1 rank lower than Gonoyama. But I think the committee, I feel like they don't want to drop a Maegashira 1 the full amount that they deserve. Gonoyama was fully outside of the Joy, fought no Sanyaku matches. And so this seems like this could be a case where we have somebody from the Joy dropping even just a little bit, going ahead of somebody that they otherwise deserve to go behind. We've seen that happen recently. So I'm gonna say Wakamoto Haru gets a little bit lucky here, gets a little bit of joy bias, and stays ahead of Gonoyama.
Feels like we're gambling a little bit to try and game what we think the new system might show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've nailed it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, this is honestly not new. Like years ago, I'd predict and sometimes accurately predict when Rikishi falling out of the Joy would go ahead of Rikishi that were outside of the Joy. So this isn't really anything new or crazy. I feel like I'm the only person I've seen make that prediction, so I'm very scared about it. So we'll see kind of how that all shakes out.
Well, how many of those dorks wrote 9-page outlines on all of their decisions?
Exactly. I bet none of them. And how many of them have been more right than I have over the past year? Most of them.
Quite a few.
Yeah. All right. Let's move down to Maegashira 4. So if we're going to have Wakamoto Haru jump ahead of Gonoyama, Gonoyama should be the very clear case to land at Maegashira 4 East, which would be a rise of 2 ranks after a 9 and 6 record from Maegashira 6. Then after that, we have a battle between two Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 4. So one of them will get their either full promotion or full demotion, or the other one will get screwed a little bit. So we've got Hira do Umi, and a name that we haven't quite mentioned yet, our Yusho winner, Koto Shoho.
I was wondering when he was going to get in the mix here.
I think Koto Shoho could end up getting a little bit unlucky here. Both of these guys were on the east side, and Koto Shoho obviously had more wins than Hira de Umi. But while Hira de Umi wasn't necessarily in the joy with Hoshoryu and Daisho's absence, that pulled him up to have 4 matches with Sanyaku Rikishi, which is more than Koto Shoho's 3 Sanyaku matchups, which may or may not matter in how the Banzuke committee is looking at this. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Plus, Hira de Umi also had a much stronger schedule overall. But the main reason that I am going to put Hira de Umi at Maegashira 4 West ahead of Koto Shoho, besides that large 10 rank gap that there was between them, if we don't promote Hira de Umi here, then he will remain at the same rank after an 8-7 record, which isn't without precedent, but I'm not going to predict it to happen. So I have Hira de Umi rising 1 rank to Maegashira 4 West after an 8-7 record.
That makes sense. I think if until you brought that up, I was kind of doubtful, but yeah, I guess this is one of those weird ones where we're losing a Sekiwake slot. Well, I mean, in your prediction, we're losing a Sekiwake slot, which means that the ranks are a little weird. Hiradomi would not just be moving ahead of one more person, he's moving ahead of 2 more people if you're just talking rank from the top, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But we have absolutely seen that the numbered ranks are generally what they're going for when somebody has to have a promotion or a demotion. And yeah, it's like you said, it's not unprecedented to keep somebody in one spot after an 8-7, but it's pretty close though. Like they very rarely do that.
You really gotta kind of be forced into it for the most part.
Yeah, like a Maegashira 1 or something, or somebody up near the top where there's a log jam or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember if it did happen or it came close to happening a couple years ago where there's just a major log jam. And I can't remember if somebody with an 8-7 was forced to stay there or not, or if it was just something some people were considering doing because the situation was so dire.
It's certainly much less common than a 7 and 8 holding a spot.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly less common.
That happens like almost every basho.
Yeah. At Maegashira 5 on the east side, after that, it should be our Yusho winner, Koto Shoho, where things could go wrong here. Maybe Wakamoto Haru doesn't get any sort of joy bias, and so maybe Hira de Umi and Koto Shoho both go ahead of Wakamoto Haru, as Wakamoto Haru was on the west side. Both of those Rikishi were on the east side. So Wakamoto Haru could easily fall this far back. And Koto Shoho could end up a little bit further ahead. Maybe the Banzuke committee wants to reward the Yusho a little bit, and so they push him ahead of Hira de Umi and say, tough luck, Hira de Umi. Who knows? But for me, my prediction, I've got Koto Shoho rising 10 ranks to Maegashira 5 East after his 13-2 record. Like I said, I'm curious to see if there will be any kind of Yusho bump for Koto Shoho that could propel him higher up the ranks than we might be predicting, similar to what we saw with Teru no Fuji and Tokushoryu following their Yushos from Maegashira 17. But I'm not predicting that to happen because our most recent low Maegashira Yusho was Takeru Fuji. He ended up at Maegashira 6 and went ahead of 0 Rikishi that he would have otherwise deserved to be higher ranked than. So I'm just going to go with the most recent precedent and assume that is the best precedent and go with that. Also, Koto Shoho is just ranked really low, and this committee hates double-digit Maegashira, so I'm just feeding into that.
Yep, no, it makes sense to me.
After that, at Maegashira 5 should be pretty simple. Only one Rikishi deserves the rank of Maegashira 5, and that is Day 10 Yusho race leader Ichi Yamamoto. So I have him
about that.
rising 3 ranks to Maegashira 5 West after his 9-6 record from Maegashira 8.
Yeah, there's another reason for Takayasu to retire. Somebody else who's choking as bad as he ever did.
Uh,
Oof.
I I feel like Ichi Yamamoto's is a lot more justifiable as like he just got
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm
thrust to the upper competition, which he is not prepared for.
very much being facetious here. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was much a better term than choke would be regression to the mean.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Back to
Hey,
normal for that last week for him.
at least it's not quite as bad as Midori Fuji's 10-0 start, which turned
Oh,
into a 10-5 record after he got
yeah.
pushed to the forefront of the Sanyaku ranks.
Oh.
Uh,
Anyway,
yeah. Anyway, at Maegashira 6, once again, hopefully pretty simple. Only one Rikishi deserves to be ranked Maegashira 6, and that is Onokatsu. So I have him dropping 3 ranks to Maegashira 6 East after going 6 and 9 for Maegashira 3. And this was a spot where I could have presumed some joy bias for Onokatsu, have him jump ahead of Ichi Yamamoto, but yeah, I wasn't feeling it. Onokatsu doesn't have the name recognition that like somebody like Wakamoto Haru might have to warrant a little extra joy bias. So I just didn't. I didn't give the preferential treatment to Onokatsu here. Could have given the same treatment as Wakamoto Haru, but didn't feel it. And you know what? That's how I feel like that's how the Banzuke committee works. So I'm allowed to as well.
there you go.
Then at Maegashira 6 on the west side, we need to pull up somebody that deserves to be Maegashira 7 to fill this rank. And lucky for us, there's only one choice there as well, and that is Kusano. So I have him rising 7 ranks after his 11 and 4 record. Sorry, I have him rising 8 ranks after his 11 and 4 record from Maegashira 14 to take that Maegashira 6 west spot. Then we need to look to Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 8 to fill the Maegashira 7 ranks. Or do we? So the Rikishi that deserve to be ranked next are Ura and Takanosho. But those guys are beta ass cucks, and they pale in comparison to former Komusubi and Giga Chad Oshoma. At least that's what I assume the Banzuke committee is going to be saying as they put Oshoma ahead of those two.
I do not understand the joke here.
Well, clearly, Oshoma, he was Komusubi. He's a god. He
I see.
deserves to go ahead of people like Ura and Takanosho that otherwise deserve to be ahead of him. Those beta ass cucks.
Something Sigma soy boys or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, we should listen to more Joe Rogan so we can be more topical on this kind of this
Yeah.
kind of lingo.
Well, I feel like beta cuck's at least 10 years old at this point. So yeah, we're falling pretty behind on that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like Joe Rogan, I guess. That's right.
So,
We're
yeah,
starting to beef with Rogan.
God,
No,
I
fuck
wish.
that. Oh my god.
So yeah, that's just a stupid way of me saying I think Oshoma is going to get some Sanyaku bias. That's going to allow him to go ahead of some Rikishi that otherwise deserve to be ahead of him. So at Maegashira 7 on the east side, I've got Oshoma dropping 7 ranks after his 3 and 12 record from Komusubi to take that spot. A big part of me, wanted to put Oshoma ahead of Kusano as well. There's a 14 rank difference between these two, but I feel like we haven't seen the committee put a Rikishi ahead of someone they deserve to be 2 ranks lower than very recently. It's happened in the past, could easily happen again, but I don't feel like we've seen it recently. So I hope that isn't a new thing that they're going to try out with this Banzuke. And I feel like Oshoma going ahead of these other two is a highly likely scenario. Going ahead of Kusano as well. Also possible, but not likely. So that leaves us with the definitely not beta cucks. Takanosho, Ura, they're cool guys. But we need to choose one of them to fill the Maegashira 7 rank. That was what the
groovy
Banzuke
cats.
committee thought, not what I thought. That's
Oh,
what believe
I
the
see.
Banzuke-
You were quoting the Banzuke committee.
Yes.
Of
So
course.
hopefully, simple tiebreakers should decide this tie. Both were on the east side, so I'll go with the Rikishi that had more wins, which was Takanosho. So I have him rising 4 ranks after a 9 and 6 record to land at Maegashira 7 West. Then that leaves Ura to rise 1 rank after an 8 and 7 record to get the Maegashira 8 East rank. And then after that, I'm going to have another Rikishi jump in line to go ahead of others that deserve to be 1 rank higher than him. This is Keen Bozan. He went 4-11 from Maegashira 3, and he was ranked 9 ranks higher than Midori Fuji and 11 ranks higher than Fuji no Kawa. I think that should be enough for his joy bias to have him jump ahead of those two and fall 5 ranks to Maegashira 8 West. Another reason that I am putting Keen Bozan here is that we have an opening at Maegashira 8 West. There are no Rikishi that deserve this rank by the math. The next Rikishi that deserve to be ranked don't deserve to be Maegashira 9. So by having Keen Bozan go ahead of Midori Fuji and Fuji no Kawa, it isn't actually costing them any promotion that they've earned. It's just a little bit of harmless joy bias. Nobody's really hurt by it. Nobody's being under demoted or under promoted or over demoted. Just a little bit of harmless joy bias. That's all it is.
Makes sense. Just as a treat.
As a treat, yeah. Then at Maegashira 9, we've only got one more Joy Rikishi to figure out how to handle at this point, and that is Daisho, who was absent for the entirety of the Basho. I feel like starting at Maegashira 8, that could be a spot you might look to start putting Daisho. I'm not pulling the trigger on him quite yet. Daisho's probably the biggest mystery to me on this Banzuke, so we'll get to him when we get to him, but he was on the back of my mind as I'm filling out starting around Maegashira 8, just like, especially with how nice they've been to the higher ranked people recently. Maybe they're just super nice and just give them a super cushy fall down the Banzuke. Maybe instead of Keen Bozan going ahead of Midori Fuji and Fuji no Kawa, maybe Daisho goes there instead, but I feel like that just doesn't make enough sense to me at this point yet.
Yeah, those 0 and 15s are way weirder than even like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 win record. Yeah. And yeah, Daisho's been in that area for years now. Like I don't know. There's just so many different little biases that could come into play for where he lands.
Yeah. So for Maegashira 9, Midori Fuji, Fuji no Kawa, both deserve this rank, and simple tiebreaker rules should apply, hopefully. So Midori Fuji was on the east side, so I have him going first, rising 3 ranks to take the Maegashira 9 east rank after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 12. Then Fuji no Kawa rising 5 ranks to take the Maegashira 9 west rank after a 10-5 record from Maegashira 14. At Maegashira 10, we have 2 Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 10. They were both ranked Maegashira 13 last time, and they had the same record, so we're just going to keep them in the same order. So at Maegashira 10 East, I've got Chura no Umi rising 3 ranks after a 9-6 record, and at Maegashira 10 West, I have Shodai rising 3 ranks after a 9-6 record.
Well, that one wasn't so bad.
Yeah. Getting a little... This one, I feel like, isn't too bad to put together. Like, the way it all kind of lines up, there's not like too many different tiebreaker situations with like 3 or 4 or more Rikishi. It's pretty well distributed across the entirety of the Banzuke, so there's not too many like large gulfs that we need to clear and figure out what crazy things to do. It lines up pretty well. We just kind of have to figure out how are we going to take into account the people with the terrible records from the Joy, like Daisho, like Oshoma, Keen Bozan. How are we going to try to take into account the very high-ranked bias that we've been seeing recently from the Banzuke committee? How much do we want to apply that to our prediction this time? So I feel like that's where the difficulty is just trying to figure out how much extra leeway are we going to give to these Rikishi from the high ranks that are dropping further down. How much more preference are we going to give them over the lower ranked Rikishi? That's where the difficulty is in this one. So for the most part, it puts itself together pretty well, and you shouldn't, with the exception of Daisho, probably have too many people that are off by more than like a rank, but high potential to have a lot of guys off by like a half rank or something like that.
Sure.
So Maegashira 11, we've got 3 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 11: Takeru Fuji, Roga, and Mitakayumi. Takeru Fuji was the highest ranked, but also the only one of these 3 on the east side. So because of east side bias, I'm going to have him drop 5 ranks after a 5-10 record to Maegashira 6, from Maegashira 6 to take the Maegashira 11 east ranking. And then after that, typical rules would determine that Mitakayumi has more wins than Roga, and therefore he should go ahead of Roga. But Roga would be over demoted if he does not land at Maegashira 11 West, because he was Maegashira 10 West, had a 7-8 record. He was also 6 ranks higher than Mitake Yumi. So based on the last Banzuke, that could put him ahead of Mitake Yumi. And I've been talking a lot about this large rank difference, but I don't really feel like I've pulled the trigger on that, with the exception of Rikshi that were in the Joy, and I've always applied Joy bias and Sanyaku
Right.
bias. And I'm just not gonna buy into this. There's a 6 rank gap between these two guys, so I'm gonna go with the higher rank guy. I need at least 1 or 2 more Bonskes of evidence of that happening consistently before I'm going to start making my predictions off of that. So could easily go with Roga here due to that large gap, large difference in their ranking. But I'm not going to fully buy into what we saw just on the last Bonsuke quite yet. So I am going to have Mitake Yumi go with the standard tiebreaker rules. They were both on the west side. Mitake Yumi had more wins. Mitake Yumi should go ahead of him. So I've got Mitake Yumi rising 5 ranks after a 10-5 record from Maegashira 16 to land at Maegashira 11 West. And actually, of note, this is a lot earlier than we typically see it, but by placing Mitake Yumi, we have just placed the last Maegashira with a winning record
Oh,
on this Bonsuke.
really?
So Juryo Rikshi are free reign at this point. Luckily for us, there aren't any Juryo Rikshi that were high ranked and had crazy records, so we really don't need to worry about them for a few more ranks, but they're not completely cut off at this point.
Interesting. Yeah, that's way earlier than normal.
There were a lot of very good records from the double digit
Yeah.
Maegashira. Like, of the double digit Maegashira that had a winning record at the bottom, M16 Mitakeyumi had 10, Koto Shoho M15 had 13, Kusano at M14 11, Fujinokawa at M14 had 10. So all the lower ranked Maegashira, the lowest ranked Maegashira, all had, if they had a winning record, they had 10 or more wins. So they rose pretty high up there.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So Maegashira 12 on the east side, that does leave Roga to be demoted 2 ranks after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 10 to land at Maegashira 12 East. A little bit of tough luck, but we've seen that happen. I'm not overly concerned about it. So Maegashira 12 West, this is the spot that I'm going to stick Daisho. I'm incredibly conflicted here because this would be the biggest demotion for an absent Sekiwake ever. The previous lowest was Miyogiryu dropping to Maegashira 11 in 2014. My first couple of drafts of this Bansuke had Daisho placed at Maegashira 10. But that was mostly just based on where previous absent Sekiwake had landed. But the last time that happened was 4 years ago. But since then, we have had 2 absent Komusubi, both of whom land at Maegashira 12, which was a bit lower than people were expecting at the time. Another reason to put Daisho here is that there is a big gulf at this point in the Bansuke. So we just placed Roga, who deserved to be Maegashira 11. There's nobody else that deserves to be ranked until Maegashira 14. So there's nobody that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 12, Maegashira 13. So we got a big gap here. So, in fact, the next Rikshi that deserves to be ranked is Daisho himself. I could
Okay.
I could try to jam him in somewhere else, but that would just basically be arbitrary guesswork on my part. Like, I could put him ahead of like Mitakeyumi and Roga, because Mitakeyumi is like an M16. Maybe they do have this huge gap in rank bias, and Sanyaku bias, and Daisho could push them down a little bit. But just with there being such a clear and obvious spot of where he could go, I just would rather go with this spot than randomly select somewhere between Maegashira 8 and Maegashira 12 East to put him. So I'm taking the easy way out. I'm putting him at what I feel like is the obvious spot. He benefits from no sort of Sanyaku bias or joy bias, other than maybe like a standard tiebreaker rule that he might lose to some of the other people that deserve to be Maegashira 14. But I don't want to arbitrarily shove him in somewhere when there is a clear spot where he could go. That makes it probably the last spot they'll put him, but it's what I'm going with.
Yeah, he'll be Maegashira 6.
Obviously, yeah, that makes the most sense. All right, so finally at Maegashira 12, we are clear of any falling Joy Rikshi. And we are also just ahead of the tide of rising Juryo Rikshi. So that leaves us with a small couple rank gap where we live in the perfect world of normal tiebreaker rules and we don't have to worry about any sort of bias or anti-bias of any kind. So at Maegashira 13, that leaves us with two Rikshi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 14, fighting for these two spots. Both were on the west side, and I know that I had previously just gone through a whole thing that said I wasn't going to use higher rank as a tiebreaker, but hear me
Here
out.
goes.
So Meisei was ranked Maegashira 5, 6 ranks higher than Toki Hayate. That is the same difference in rank as Roga and Mitakayumi, but Meisei fought one Sanyaku match.
Oh, did
and
he?
That's going to be enough for me to call Joy bias and have Meisei fall 8 ranks after a 3-12 record to land at Maegashira 13 East.
I like it. You're playing fast and loose. You're shooting from the hip.
And maybe that's why I keep not doing well in these predictions, because I feel like I keep just doing stupid crap for the sake of doing stupid crap on these predictions in an attempt to chase the Banzuke committee, and it's clearly not working out. So if it doesn't work out this time, I'm probably just going to be like, I'm just going by the math. I'm just going by the math. We're just going to see what happens, but I'm just going by the math.
We've definitely had that nervous breakdown on these episodes before, so it'd be fun to see see the sequel.
Yeah. And then that will leave Toki Hayate to fall 2 ranks after a 6-9 record from Maegashira 11 to land at Maegashira 13 West. At Maegashira 14, we're looking at 3 Rikshi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 15, but one of those Rikshi is coming from Juryo. So, wow, we really only had like 1 rank where we weren't worried about Joy bias or anti-Juryo bias, just Maegashira 13. And even in that case, I still went against my normal tiebreaker rules. God
this is like you finally getting a vacation, but you bring your work laptop along with you.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, so we've got 2 Rikshi that we're looking at to take the Maegashira 14 rank. These are Sada no Umi and Asakoryu. Sada no Umi was ranked higher and on the east side, so should easily go ahead of Asakoryu here and take the Maegashira 14 East ranking. A drop of 6 ranks after a 4-11 record. And then that leaves Asakoryu to drop 2 ranks after a 6-9 record from Maegashira 12 to take the Maegashira 14 West rank. Then at Maegashira 15, we could take that Juryo Rikshi that deserves the Maegashira 15 rank to go here. But where's the fun in that? So instead, let's take the former Maegashira 7 Rikshi taking a big drop down the Banzuke to go ahead of the rising Juryo Rikshi, which means I have Tobizaru dropping 8 ranks after a 3-12 record to land at Maegashira 15 East. This is something that I feel like we've seen recently. It's a preference of putting big dropping Maegashira, particularly ranked like Maegashira 9 and higher, ahead of rising Juryo Rikshi. So I feel safe putting Tobizaru ahead of the Juryo Rikshi that he only deserves to be 1 rank lower than. So we're going to say screw the Juryo Rikshi, but actually at this point, we can't say screw the Juryo Rikshi anymore. We've got no choice but to just start adding a bunch of Juryo Rikshi. Six of the next 7 Rikshi that deserve to be ranked are coming from Juryo. And the one Maegashira Rikshi in that group that deserves to be ranked in that next group of 7 with 7 and 8 from Maegashira 17 West. So they can't go any higher than that.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's time to hop aboard the Juryo Promotion Express. And we will start with Shonan no Umi, who deserves to be the highest ranked Juryo Rikshi after going 10-5 from Juryo 2. So I've got him rising 5 ranks to take Maegashira 15 West. At Maegashira 16, the next Juryo promotee should be Tomokaze. He is the only Rikshi that deserves to be ranked next, so I've got him rising 3 ranks after a 9-6 record from Juryo 2. And then at Maegashira 16 West, we have 3 Rikshi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 18. only two of them can go here because the third is that aforementioned Maegashira 17 West Rikshi that went 7 and 8, that being Shishi. Um, Obviously, we're not about to promote Shishi. So that leaves our two Juryo 1 Rikshi that both went 8 and 7. So that's easy enough. We will take the one that was on the east side, and that was Nishikigi. I've got him rising 3 ranks to Maegashira 16 West. And then Ryuden was also Juryo 1 West. He went 8 and 7. So I've got him rising 2 ranks to Maegashira 17 East. So now we are at the Maegashira 17 West spot, and we need to decide to either keep Shishi, who went 7 and 8 from here, or promote a Juryo Rikshi ahead of him. Shishi does deserve to be the next ranked Rikshi, but the argument I'm seeing against keeping Shishi in this spot is that Shishi was the last Rikshi on the Banzuke last time. He had a losing record. If we keep him at this spot, a Maegashira 18 East rank is going to be created below him due to the shrinking Sanyaku ranks. Does Shishi deserve to, in effect, get a promotion? He's going to be staying ahead of one person.
Yeah. If he keeps his same rank, there are now only 40 people in front of him instead of 41.
Right.
So technically not a promotion, but literally, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's silly.
But having said that, I didn't think of that until after I submitted this Banzuke. So I've got Shishi staying ahead of that Juryo Rikshi that he deserves to be ranked ahead of and keeping his previous rank of Maegashira 17 West. Also, I feel like the Banzuke committee probably doesn't care all that much.
They probably forgot to.
We've seen situations similar to this in the past. We have 100% seen a 7 and 8 Rikshi keep their previous rank after the Sanyaku ranks have shrunk up. So in effect, they're getting a promotion.
Technically a promotion, yeah.
It looks worse when it's happening to the last guy on the Banzuke, but it's no different than a Maegashira 10 East keeping his Maegashira 10 East ranking. He's still going to be ahead of one more guy than he was the last time, despite having a losing record. I'm not overly worried about it, but a little bit more worried about it than I was before I read those comments.
Don't let other people tell you how to feel.
I didn't. Well, I might have changed it if I hadn't already submitted it. I don't know. That's why I don't look at the conversation until after I submit it, because I do want it to be my prediction.
Makes sense.
Then at Maegashira 18, once again, this rank being brought in because the Sanyaku ranks shrinking down to 7 instead of 8. It comes down to, do we want to keep Koto Ueho, who went 6 and 9 from Maegashira 17, or do we want to over promote a Juryo Rikshi that went 10 and 5 from Juryo 6? Koto Ueho deserves to be 1 rank lower than 2 Juryo Rikshi. And since all 3 of these Rikshi's record would have them land in Juryo, and Koto Ueho was a bottom of the barrel Maegashira making his top division debut, I am not going to give him a whole lot of extra bias to stick around in the top division. I am going to have Koto Ueho go down to Juryo, and in favor of Koto Ueho, I am going to have Hitoshi come up to the top division, rising 6 ranks to be Maegashira 18 East. So that is the last Rikshi I have in my Banzuke. I know a lot of people are keeping Koto Ueho here, but because Hitoshi deserves to be ranked higher than Koto Ueho, and Koto Ueho was Maegashira 17, I feel like you're not getting a whole lot of extra bias to stick around in the top division. Once again, I say this fully acknowledging Nishikifuji did not drop at all after a 6 and 9 record to stay ahead of some Juryo Rikshi.
The Nishikifuji incident, that's the number one thing that I will remember him for decades.
Yeah, that's the scab that will never heal. We're going to continuously pick at that on the Banzuke episodes. We'll never get over it.
Yeah. In my opinion, that's justifiable.
Yeah. And you know what? We'll see if me going against that, maybe that precedent should have led me to believe, no, Koto Ueho is going to stay here. But I do think it was different because I think Nishikifuji deserved to be the same rank as those Juryo Rikishi that he went ahead of, as opposed to Kotoeho here, does deserve to be lower ranked than those Juryo Rikishi. Well,
Sure.
it's not the exact same because Kotoeho would be dropping in either situation. But yeah, I just don't feel like you're going to give a whole lot of precedent to a Maegashira 17. So that is my predicted Banzuke. This is the Banzuke that's going to get me back on the right track, back on my winning ways, and guess the Banzuke. We feel it, we're saying it, so surely we're confident about it, and it must be true if we've said it so many times on this podcast.
Of course.
Why would we say something over and over again if we didn't fully truly believe it in our heart?
No comment.
So in my prediction, I've got 5 Rikishi rising from Juryo, which means we've got to say goodbye to 5 Makuuchi Rikishi. The 5 that I have being demoted down to Juryo are Endo, Chiyoshima, Hideno Umi, Kaio. Those 4 absolute locks. No way in hell any of them are staying in the top division. And the 5th one, Kotoeho, he does have a chance of sticking around in the top division. We'll see which side that coin lands upon. Don't have any Rikishi retiring. So, Jake, as we've gone through this, what are the spots where you think I most royally screwed up?
I think the spots that I'm going to be watching the most are that Daisho one that you were.
It has the highest variance of anybody.
It has the highest variance. I think you also said he definitely goes here. He definitely does for sure. This is the spot that makes the most sense. And you kept going for a while, and I'm like, that's not the sound of confidence.
I said it's the most obvious spot, so it's the last spot they're going to put him.
Yeah,
but it's where I put him.
Daisho,
because I didn't feel safe putting him anywhere else.
Yeah, Daisho for sure, that spot. And then the other 2 that I'm keeping an eye on are Wakamoto Haru and Hitoshi. Just again, you went over why they were somewhat risky picks or why they were things that you could see the other side of. But yeah, those 2 in particular stuck out to me as ones that I think I don't know. I think we're going to learn something about this new Banzuke committee. I mean, we have been learning about them, and at what point do we stop?
So inconsistent.
At what point do we stop calling them new? I guess maybe once we kind of understand
Banzuke
them,
committee,
we can call them. Yeah, we can move on. But I don't know. Those are the big 3 for me. Daisho more so than the other 2, but yeah, overall, as usual, your reasoning makes sense when you have an hour to defend it. But
yeah,
I think
nobody throwing counterpoints at me.
Yeah. I'm not studied enough to say why for sure, but generally when we go through these, your level of confidence is one of the things that makes me the most suspicious of some of your choices.
Well, hopefully, hopefully you're not picking up a whole lot of confidence from my Banzuke predictions. I shouldn't have very much in the way of confidence right now in any of this stuff. So
yeah. I would say
this is the time. We're getting back on track. We're going to be confident. Yeah. We're going to be super confident going into next time because we're going to knock this one out of the park.
Yeah. No, this just get a home run to break that hitless streak, and then you're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, they say nobody's gotten a perfect prediction on Guess the Banzuke, and I say, why not now? Why not right here, right now, this time?
No comment again.
So we will find out the answers to how good did I do, please, on this Banzuke when it is released on Sunday, August 31st, America time. Basho is going to start on September 14th. We've got the news episode, catch up on all the news that has happened since the end of the Basho until now. But maybe a lot of it. Tune in and find out.
No, I put in the description of the episode that there was not a lot of it. So it's canon now.
Damn it, Jake. How are we going to drive up those YouTube views if you tell
how
people
are we
going to
put dinner on the table?
Right.
Oh, man.
But no, that's all I got. Wrap up the episode, Jake. Say the thing. You earned the right.
I did by beating your ass at predicting things in 2024. So yeah, I can stretch this out as much as I like. I'm the hero here. Until next time, throw your salt high and keep moving forwards.